you. Yeah, yo. There whenever it matters, and even more when you feel like it doesn't. Protect you so you never feel like you wasn't. Know I'm right alongside you. Either that or I'm behind you, but always got you. End of discussion, nothing means more. First one to offer is shoulders for what you reach for. Thought I saw the eyes of the world until I seen yours. And know that I ain't see a better view yet. I'm with whatever, so don't ever you fret. Know that you covered, not a hurdle or a heartbreak. A change what a partake, cause none of them won't ever get comfortable in your walkway. My job is to aware you, fully loaded, prepare you for all of the above that I'm never letting get near you. But still in all, give you every advantage I found. Couldn't find a better fit for them, along with my crown. And since the baton was passed, I've been down. Cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
My message to any dad, man, first off, know that, yeah, it is a hard job, but it's the greatest job in the world. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't change anything about it. Everything you're doing from here on out, if it didn't have purpose before, now it has purpose. It's the most important thing you'll ever do. Just be a dad.
Autism destroys families, and these are kids who will never pay taxes. They'll never hold a job. They'll never go out on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted.
As a father, a physician, as a CEO and lead physician of my practice, I have a platform and I'm going to say something. The bottom line is what RFK said was wrong, not scientifically based, and most important, hurtful. I have the honor of taking care of patients that have autism, and their families are not ruined. They're not damaged. I know patients that are doing their taxes, going on dates. And the bottom line, this is hurtful. My heart goes out to patients that are feeling hurt by these comments. My heart goes out to the families. It's just hurting. And most important, I come as a father. My son has autism, and I'm proud of him. And there will be times where people will say things like this. And I get to tell him what he can do and what he's been able to do. If they want to ask what they can do to help, it's support. Making sure they get the treatments that they need to help to facilitate them to do things. And most important, it's to spend money and the right type of research to figure out what we can do to help. This is not a disease. This is something that is a part of them, and it's fine. To the families and the patients out there, know that you have support. To the family members that find out that their child has autism, know that there's support out there. And I know that feeling of like, what happened? How did this happen? Enjoy your child. Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm fine.
I have a question to ask you.
What?
So, I want you to explain yourself in 3 words.
Nice, smart, and short hair.
I believe that. Want to give me a kiss?
But everyone else will see it.
It's fine.
Welcome to another episode of Dad Is Not a Noun. My name is Ishmael, changing the narrative for men of color fatherhood, as well as changing the narrative on the things I care about. And April is Autism Awareness Month, so I want to put that out there. And what troubled me the most was the comments from RFK Jr. when he talked about autism. My feelings is that autism is a superpower. You can't treat it. You can't paint the same brush when it comes to individuals. You have to take it by individual cases. And my guest here, he shared a personal story being a dad that has an autistic child. I'm truly honored to have him on. He is the sleep doctor, Chris. Thank you for coming on, sir. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, and thank you for what you're doing. And it's great just to be, like I said, father and being out there. That's something that I do appreciate, and I definitely associate with as well. And I'm just glad to be here.
No, thank you for coming on. I ask all my guests this question because I'm an advocate of mental health. How's your heart?
That's funny. My heart's doing well. And it's funny. I like to share stories with my patients because I'm a sleep medicine doctor for kids and adults, and I'm also a pediatric neurologist. And so I feel like if you share how you are feeling, it just shows that you're human. Sure, I'm a doctor, but as I've said in my video, I'm also a father, and I have a family and everything. And so my heart is going well, and I battle with high blood pressure, which is going well too. So doctors have to take care of themselves as well.
And just talk about, being a doctor. Like, what do you do for yourself for your mental health? Because you pour so much into your patients, but how do you um, slow down and just work on you so you can be better for your patients?
That's funny. That's a journey of life, and I always tell people that two things. One, you have to have boundaries. I tell that to my colleagues and medical students. There will always be something you need to do for medicine, but you have to give boundaries to yourself, because if you can't help yourself, you can't help others. So I'm very fortunate to be the CEO and lead physician of my own practice, and I've been doing this for over a year now. I've been in medicine for a very long time, and that's the thing that helps me, because one thing about medicine, it will take what you give it and ask for more. And then when you give it more, it's going to ask for more. So the first thing is setting boundaries, and then two, you have to fill yourself. Therapy is real. I have a therapist. I have to make sure that I'm doing okay on the inside, because, as I said before, a better me will be better for my family. It'll be better for my staff, and definitely better for my patients.
And then also just talk about being a black man in medicine. Because I have previous guests on that's in different professions in the medical field. And I say it's like finding a diamond in the rough. So for you personally, as a black man in the medical field, how's that been for you?
It's been a journey. And one thing I'll say about that, I'm proud to be a black man in medicine. And I'm proud of the feeling that it gives my people when I come in and they see Dr. Chris Allen. They don't know who to expect. And then when I open the door and they see me, they're like, oh, okay. So I like that. And then also, I always tell people that I'm going to be a doctor for everybody, but I know my people need help, and I'm gonna do that for them, and make sure that they have, and talk to things about how they might understand. And it's funny because I saw a patient recently, and I was asking her about using CPAP, and she's like, "Oh yeah, something's wrong." When I was getting her edges together, I knew what they were talking about. So I was like, and she started like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh no," I was like, "Don't worry, I understand what you mean. I got a mom, I got a sister, I got a daughter, got a wife. I know all of that." And so, I take joy in it. I won't lie and say that it's been a straight and narrow road, because the thing is that even if I didn't say like, "Hey, I'm the black doctor," that's been told for me as well. Been very fortunate to get good training at a med school where they looked at, it wasn't, at an HBCU, but it was pretty close because it was a lot of us back then. Now it's a different story. Being in residency, I saw the difference when there was not a lot of people that looked like me. And then the ones that were there were more black women than black males. And so I know that I'm, in rare air. I do what I can to make sure that I reach back to people that want to do it, to say that it's possible. Also, that people that think that might be there for you might not, but that doesn't stop you, because the best advocate for you is going to be you, and you're going to fight that, and you find allies that'll help you along the way. I know I have, and I try to be that for other people as well.
And then also, I asked this question to a previous guest that's also who's on his way of being a doctor. I think he just graduated. He's on his way to being a doctor. Just talk about the power of getting that head nod from an OG.
It's, it's passing the torch. And, the thing is that it's funny. I've been practicing long enough where I got people that are looking up to me. And when I give them that, congratulations, and like, all right, you doing it, or giving them the nod, like, oh, wow, like they are accepting that. And that's what it's all about. It's about that pipeline. People before me were sitting with me when I was in med school, or even when I left them, and they may not have been there, but they were a phone call away, and making sure that they were encouraging me and keeping it real with me. There's times like, "No, Chris, you need to get yourself together." It's like, or "No, that was wrong," and you stand your ground. And I did. And even though like there's times where it was hard, it gets to the point where, I have this adage that I tell people: I prove people wrong for a living. So one of the the best and worst things you can do is doubt me,
Mhm.
because it's best for me, worse for you. Because if you're doubting me, I'm just gonna have to prove you wrong.
And I love that too. And let's get into the main course of the conversation, because you know what our what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said in the press conference was alarming. When it came to autism, he tried to paint brush when it comes to autism with one brush, and not understanding that is a little bit more complicated. It's not as simplified as he tried to say. As is a epidemic is a tragedy to me. I see autism as more of a superpower, because there's so many young people that's autistic that's doing extraordinary things. Like I think of one person, a couple of people. I think of the young man Joshua Backford out of UK, 11 years old. I think he's like 19 now, but at 11 years old, he was the youngest person to get accepted to Oxford University at
Hmm.
11 years old. And then I think of another person. I think of the young man. I don't want to mess up his name. Jody Kofi. He's a young kid who's a piano. Um, I can't think of the word, but just a genius. He's like, I think like 6 or 7 years old, and like he hears things and he picks up things real fast and can play the same notes when it comes to piano. So again, it talks about, when I'm talking about when you talk autism, is that paint you can't paint that same brush with all kids. You have to deal with it at an individual basis. And what I enjoyed was your video that you posted, because you have a child that has autism, and you shared how, you know, those things that RFK Jr. said can be hurtful and people can take it the wrong way. So if you want to share why you wanted to share that video, and give us more insight on that.
No, most definitely. And thank you for bringing that up. One of the biggest reasons why I shared it, because just like you and everyone else, I was just watching it on TV. I saw a clip, and then I was like, you know what, let me play this clip to the entirety of it. And one of the things about me is that, I always tell people this: knowledge is power. And what you know will give you power to move forward in decisions that you want to make. And then the second thing is words matter. And what Robert F. Kennedy was talking about, the thing is that whatever you say, someone's going to take that word and take it for face value. If you have to say, no, he meant this, then you're not doing your job. I'm a doctor, and if I told somebody something and I was like, oh no, actually I meant this, that can be a decision between life and death. And so hearing what he said about that, it's like autism, it's a tragedy. It breaks families. There's people that will never vote, never pay taxes, never go on a date. And I have the privilege of being a pediatric neurologist where I've seen patients. And the thing is with autism, it's initially autism spectrum disorder. There can be an array of symptoms of it. There can be cases where it's mild and where you might not even know if you really don't know the person, or where it can be severe, where there are people that are nonverbal. There are people that are not able to go to the bathroom. And the thing is that he was talking about it. And when he talked about it, he just talked about how it's a tragedy and how they need to look at more. But what about those people that are there? And the hard part about it, we can talk about tons of people, and you've mentioned, that are doing well with autism. And I know that there's people that are not doing well with autism. And instead of talking about them and highlighting them, because they feel like they're unheard of. And some people, because there's a lot of videos even after this saying, well, my son does this and that, and even mine's included, where they still need to have that support. What he said was not supportive, it was heard. And the thing is that those people, those patients, they're precious and they're great as well. And it disrespect the patients that are like that. It disrespect the patients and people that are not like that either. And that's how it hit me. My son is 8 years old. He has been diagnosed with autism over 2 years ago now. And the fact of the matter is, I know what he is. And the fact of the matter is that there are going to be words and people that will say against it. And I know that in this case in general. And so when I saw that, that made me say that, I have a platform. I'm a sleep doctor. I talk about sleep tics, but I'm also a pediatric neurologist. And I usually do bring up autism, especially within this month, where I went out and talked about it. Because the thing is, I know that there was a lot of people that were hurt, that when they look at their child, they don't see that. I knew that there was people that were hurt that look at their child and it's like, wow, now I know that my child can't talk. I know that he can't go to the bathroom, but like those words hurt, and that doesn't do anything to help. And the hard part about it, with all these fundings and cut that are happening, that's what can help them. And so I just charged, that administration. I had charged RFK to actually, one, if you have a position in a job, listen to the people that are the expert for that, and to move that process forward. And that's the best way that you can be a leader, knowing what you do and don't know. I know what I don't know, but I also know what I do know. And what he was saying was going against the things that I do know. And to me, people may, disagree, but to me, it's about the patient. And that's my biggest thing. I took an oath as a doctor to do no harm. And that's where I decided to go out on that platform. As a father, I know how it feels to hurt as a parent. I know how it feels where your child might have some differences than other children. And what's going to happen when they grow up, and what can we do, knowing that they need to have support. I'm very blessed that my son has support where I can find those tools for him. And even with that, it's still hard. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I went out there and decided to talk about it.
And I thank you for doing that, because I think what's so tragic is that, when you think of Robert RFK Jr., he is the U.S. Health Secretary. So when you talk about health, he's the face. In this world that we live in, this algorithm of disinformation, when you have someone in a certain position that's telling half truth, now you're in a position, when you're in that position, you're a doctor, and you give information to people, you're in a situation where he's saying this, but you're saying this, and they're like, who do I believe? And so you're in a messed up situation. It's like, I did the study, I did the research, I did the homework, I did the things that I've had to do to put me in this position where I'm better equipped to have this conversation about this than someone who may not have that as a counterpart.
Yeah, I mean, and that's true. And but the bottom line is that I will always speak truth to power. And I always tell patients, I always tell my colleagues, even if we disagree collegially, if there's if I'm telling you something, I will always give you the why. And even with autism, we know that there is a genetic component to it. We know that there can be more information where you can look at environmental factors. You just can't push that away. We know that there has been increased like diagnosis of autism because the screening has changed and providers have gotten better screening and looking for it. There's studies to show that. There's been thousands of studies to show that vaccines are not the reason why that happened. We have studies to show that person that said that the vaccine was the reason got barred from being a doctor, and showing that it was false. And so I will always speak truth to power, because honestly, it's not about how I feel, it's about what oath I took and what I can do to help patients. And no matter who's in office, no matter who's over Health and Homeland Security or HSS, where I'm going to do what I can to make sure. And my thing is, if you have a position, you get people, and if you don't know, get people around you that can help you out. And time will tell from that. But one thing is that I'm a very hopeful person, and I know that truth always wins, no matter how much you try to move against that. And I will do what I can to help along with that. And that's not going to stop. That's not going to stop for me as being a doctor. It's not going to stop me as being a father.
And then also just talk about how how's it help you learning the meaning of being patient, raising an autistic child?
Um, as I said at the beginning, it's about being personal in your mental space as well, because you want the best for your child and you would do whatever it takes for your child. But a better you is a better for them. And so the patience is just understanding, and as I said before, knowledge is power. Understanding how autism works, understanding coping mechanisms of what you can do if he does get dysregulated, understanding that like he might say something and he might not mean it, or it's because of the autism, and understanding that. And that's where it is. It needed support. I needed that support, and I was able to get that support. And I also put something out on social media as far as where you can go to help that. And a lot of people and a lot of families don't have that support, and it's out there. And a lot of them know of it, but they don't use it. And it's like it's layered. One, you want to do what's best for your child. Two, it's coming to acceptance with that. Just like anything that happens with your child, if there is something that is outside of what is quote unquote the normal, you have to understand, it's like, well, how am I taking this? How am I feeling? What can I do to be better for my child? And so that is something that is important as well.
Definitely. And this is my last question. I asked this to all the dads that's been on the show. Um, I do believe fatherhood is a work of art. And so I think you being in the medical field, I think being a doctor, that's artistry at work. So how do you apply your work in the medical field into your fatherhood?
That's a funny question. Because it's funny because it makes me laugh, because I always tell people like being a parent is like being on call, but you don't have like a time where it ends. You just keep going and going. Like when I was in residency and I would be in the hospital all night, I knew that there was a finish line. And even when your child is an adult, you're still going to be a part of a parent to them. And so what I do is just like, if I had to equate it to medicine, it's that there's a plan, you stick with that plan, and understanding in the middle of that plan might have to change. And always check in just to make sure that the right things are happening. And so that's one of the things that I think close to being the father from that. And it's just like, in medicine, you have to have boundaries, like with your children, because you love them, and you have to set boundaries, what they can and can't do. And that's going to help them be a better child and a future adult. And then finally, it's just that like you have to make sure that you're okay, because if you're okay for yourself, then you can help them out. I tell that to all my patients that I see and with their kids, and especially with autism. Like, I mean, most of the part of the appointments for the patient, then I check in with the parent. I'm like, how are you doing? Who's helping? You hold them accountable. If someone says, can I do something? Yes, I need to go here. So can you come here? These are the resources that you can use. Autism Speaks is great where they get people together. There's communities out there for them. And so, yeah, that's what I do.
Thank you for that, Dr. Chris. I appreciate you for coming on. How can people find you?
So, all right. So, if you see the name right there, Sleep Dr. Chris, if you go to Twitter, if you go to Instagram, you can put that on there. You can also put that on TikTok as well. And I'm also on YouTube. And then if you put in Sleep Dr. Chris and just Google me, it'll come up.
Definitely. And all those links will be in the description below. And then also, I definitely want to have you come back on a future episode to talk about sleep. I think
Hey,
that's the conversation when it comes to our community that we need to have, because we need to have the proper language when we have a conversation about getting good sleep.
most definitely. Hey, I'm all for it. So, till
All
next
right.
time.
Definitely. This has been another great episode on the podcast. Like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And we're out. Peace. All right. Stay on for 1 second. I'm going to end the recording.